What's up, guys? So I wanted to do a video today on some legal issues, mainly legal reforms that need to happen, particularly in the family law section. Now, I took family law a long time ago, back when I was young and in college, and the reason why I did it was basically because I got Johnny Depped. I was in a relationship with an abuser, and she tried to kill me. She tried to stab me. And in the process of defending myself, I had to do what I had to do and get rough with her. And that ended up making it to where this person spun around to try to get away from me, even though she initiated contact, and she ended up falling. Alcohol was involved, so neither of our balances were very good that particular night, and she landed on some broken glass that she had thrown there earlier in the confrontation. So she starts a fight with me, breaks glass, goes into the kitchen, gets a knife, comes back. I'm there looking at the glass, kind of like, she doesn't say a word to me this entire time. And then she attempts to stab me with the knife. I fight her off. We fall on the ground, and long story short, I pancake her. And because I'm a bigger person, and I hadn't had as much to drink as her, I was fortunate enough to get away and get her off of me. And I was 23 at the time. I'm 43 now, so I was in good shape, and she was 16 years older than me. So I was physically, I guess you could say, dominant compared to her. So it all happened so quickly and so fast that I really, you always think, oh, if something happens, I know exactly what I'm going to do. But I really didn't have time to think. I just did the only thing that I could do. And then what happened next happened. So when she rolled over and looked up at me, she had a busted lip right here from landing face first on the glass. And she looked up at me, and her eyes kind of were like shocked. And I looked at her, and I had that, oh shit, your mouth is cut. And I kind of knew from the amount of blood, I was like, this could be an issue, but I didn't know how much, because she had hit me before, and then she'd punched me 10 times in the mouth like a couple months earlier, and then she just didn't say anything for the rest of the night, and she just calmed down, sat, sobered up, and then made me breakfast, and then we just didn't talk about it. So I kind of thought that maybe she would realize what she had done, because I figured it was just like a fit of anger or something, and then she would cool off and whatever. There's larger issues at play here about why didn't you do something the first time or whatever, but that's neither here nor there. She left, and then that was that. She went to the hospital, and apparently when she was at the hospital, police were called, and then they came, and my dumb ass didn't leave. So I stayed home because I was an innocent person, and I didn't feel like I had to go anywhere. I was the victim. And that being said, I didn't really know what to do. So when it came down to it, and I asked the police if they would, still be arresting me if I'd let her stab me, they said yes. And that's when I began to learn just how rigged the system was against men. Because they didn't bother to check the prints on the knife, even though she had the only prints on the knife. They didn't look at the crime scene. They didn't do any forensics. They weren't there. They weren't witnesses to the event. It was he said, she said. The event could have happened any number of ways, and yet they only saw her narrative. My narrative was never taken into question. It was always, I'm the man, she's the woman, therefore she must have had a reason. They never bothered to cross-examine her. They never bothered to get a deposition. They never bothered to question. They would have realized that she was, a heavy drunk and probably, I don't want to say an alcoholic, but she was a heavy drunk. Let's just leave it at that. She had mental issues, and later, they may have even found out that she had multiple personality disorder because she kept changing her name from one name to another. So, lots of things to unpack there. And the person that actually tried to stab me was not my girlfriend. It was the other personality. So, I know. Boom. That's why I was never really mad at my girlfriend. Because I understood. I'd see the look in her eyes. She would become another person. And then, just as easy as that, she would flip off. And this happened dozens of times in a relationship. 15 minutes later, she'd wake up and then be another person and say, why am I in the living room? Or why am I in the kitchen? Or what just happened? The last thing I remember was... And that's how I started to piece together. I saw at least 3 different personalities in the time that we were together. So, there needs to be a lot of reform because none of this stuff is standard procedure, and it should be. And the cops need to stop coming in and being a witness because A, you weren't there. And when they go to court and they testify, now there's 2 witnesses. So as soon as they decide arbitrarily who they think is guilty and they take a statement, that becomes a witness. So now, if they decide, for example, that you've hit her and the man has hit the woman, for example, which is the normal course of action, then the woman naturally is going to go, well, unless you just find yourself with a super honest woman, which is very rare. But even then, she doesn't have the ability to tell them not to press charges in most cases. If she says, I don't want to press, the police usually just press charges. So now she's testifying, which is 1, and then the police are testifying, which is 2. So you got 2 witnesses against you. So it's 2 words to yours, even though one of those words wasn't even there. It's just hearsay. And hearsay is not supposed to be allowable in court. But we allow it all the time with police who didn't witness anything, especially in domestic violence cases. So the police can say, yeah, he did it. I saw a wound on her face. That's great. You have no clue. She could have walked into a wall. You have no clue what happened. But you're still saying that. And this works both ways. A guy can have played football and then come home and then say, my wife did this. You'd be amazed at how easy this is to pull off because of the loopholes in our system. Next, once they determine who the victim is, it doesn't matter anything in that victim's past. So, if the victim has 10 domestic violence charges, and I'm speaking for the state of Florida, I can't talk about the entire country, but I'm sure other states have similar rules. If the victim has 10 domestic violence charges, they could have beat up the last 10 boyfriends and husbands that they had, get with you, and then finally become hip to the game, get educated, be put on one, and then realize, you know what? All I need to do is just hit myself in the face, bloody myself up, call the cops, and then when they get there, I'm going to say he hit me. Now, they'll believe me because I have a wound, and I'm the woman. Now, I become the victim because I'm the victim when we go to trial. They cannot use any of my past against me because it's illegal to bring up the victim's past in trial. I don't know if you knew that. So, I can argue, hey, this is not true, she's lying, and she has a history of abuse. She was actually the one abusing me, and it was self-defense. So I'm pleading it's self-defense, and I want, check her out, look at her history, the whole 9 yards. They go, objection, you can't do that, you're in contempt of court, you're not allowed to bring any of this stuff up. No. You get in trouble for doing that. The jury and the judge will never hear it, it'll never be taken into consideration. her past will never be brought up. You, as a man, will just simply be screwed because she just figured out how to game the system. And once again, men, it goes for you. If you are domestic violence and you are a wife beater, all you have to do is strike first, call first, get them to acknowledge you as the victim, and then she cannot bring up your past. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Now, I'm not in any way condoning any of this because I myself have been a victim of this. I am simply telling you this to educate you because these rules, these laws, are stupid, they're asinine, and you need to write, call, text, start fundraisers, whatever it is, to make sure that we abolish and repeal these stupid laws, because these were put under there for quote-unquote victims' protections rights and victims' rights advocacy groups, when in reality they do not protect victims. They actually give a victim a way to turn the tables. See, anybody who's smart enough in the law, the more educated you are in anything, you're going to learn how to manipulate it and turn it around on somebody else. And who is better educated than people who've actually gone through the system? And criminals, in the weirdest kind of way, end up becoming, if you ever sat in a jail cell for a long time and listened to these criminals talk, they know so much about the law because they've been in and out. They can tell you exactly when they're going to get bonded out. They can tell you how much lawyers cost. They can tell you who you can get the free consultation. They know who the best lawyers in town are. They know when you're going to see the judge. They know how much time it's going to take. They know what the court docket looks like. They know the inner workings of courtroom procedures. They're basically the best poor man lawyers that you can find. They can give you excellent legal advice up until to a point, because they've been in the system, in and out. If they've got 10, 15, 20 charges, their rap sheet is a mile long, because that experience is irreplaceable, whereas the average person doesn't know that. So unless you're going to start educating yourself like a lawyer, you don't know that. And all it takes is for one predator to figure this out, and then boom, they flip the scripts, and all of a sudden your victim's rights laws is now not protecting the victim, but it actually hurts the victim. Furthermore, it's just a stupid rule to begin with, because it doesn't actually protect anyone. Because as you can see in these situations, all it does is make sure that the jury and the judge does not have all the information available when it's time to make a decision. So they're not going to pick the innocent person or the guilty person. They're going to make misinformed or uninformed decisions, and now you've got innocent people going to jail, and now that's on your record. And once it's on your record, then the next time something happens, people can use it against you, which I've had that happen as well. Because once you have that arrest on your record and you're driving around, whether it's just probation or whatever, people start to look at you, and then they start to say, or they do a people search or a clerk of the court search or whatever it is, or you date another woman, and that woman looks into your past, she knows, oh, this person has this on their record. Now all I have to do is just say that he hit me, and they're going to be more likely to believe me. And I had a girlfriend that I dated 5 years after the incident do that, because I told her my history and I told her a story. I said, man, I dated this one crazy woman, this is what she did. And sure enough, 6 weeks into that relationship, I caught her snorting Roxy's on my computer desk on the day that she got paid, and then she asked me to borrow $100 from her, and I was like, no, we're done, I'm throwing you out. And instead of taking accountability for it and just leaving, she decided to try to trash my house, attack me. She was throwing bottles like at my face, like I had a suntan lotion bottle and a bottle of aloe vera, and they were coming like right at my face. I was just barely missing them because she's standing 3 feet in front of me and trying to hurl them directly at my face. So I went to grab her hands to stop her from grabbing things, and once I did that, she started screaming bloody murder. And then I was like, well, I have to let her go. I guess. I don't know. I started freaking out. And then once I let her go, she hit herself like twice in the face to try to make herself bleed. And then she started screaming, help, he's hitting me, he's hitting me. And we lived in the projects, so of course, like, nobody cares in the projects. I hate to tell you. So this poor little white girl didn't understand, because I wasn't raised white, so I knew better. So I ran outside and was like, help, I need a witness. And I'm on the phone with the police, and she's on the phone with the police at the same time. And when they showed up, she had no marks. So they came and were like, well, you don't have marks, she doesn't have marks. And that's when I put two and two together, and I realized, wait, last time the only reason why I got in trouble is she had a mark. And this time the only reason why I'm not in trouble is because she doesn't have a mark. It's all about marks. I was like, you son of a bitch. So I went to school, and then I took family law. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to be a victim again. I'm done with this crap. I need to learn the ins and outs. And that's when I really started researching the subject and making sure that now, when I'm with somebody, I want to date somebody, I hate to say it, but guys, you got to protect yourself. I record every conversation. I save every text. There's cameras, and you're probably being watched if you're dating me. And if you're not cool with that, then sorry. That means you've got something to hide, and you're probably doing something wrong. So I hate that it has to be this way, because I am an old school Gen X person, and I like privacy, and I don't like cameras. I don't even like filming this. But I'm doing it because if it helps a guy out there, then it does, because it takes away from people who are real domestic violence victims. And far too often, the good ones are the ones that get screwed, because we put up with crap every day. Most men are good, and we live in a world where women are just stepping on us all the time, which is why red pill content is becoming so prevalent, because there are 2,200 battered women's shelters in this country. There's one battered men's shelter. Why? If you care so much about equality, why is that the case? We get beat up, and then we have nowhere to go. We get thrown out on the street, we get suicidal, we get depressed, and nobody cares. It's suck it up, buttercup. Put a brave face on. Our mental health and our physical health is not cared about, because it's looked on as, well, you're bigger, you should just be able to take it. I shouldn't have to take it. It's completely socially acceptable for a woman to throw water in a guy's face in public. But if a guy did it to a woman, we all know that there'd be 4 white knight simps in shining armor to come throw that guy out of a bar. You know who you are. And if you are those guys, we all have serious problems with you. You are the problem. You are not helping anyone. Do not get involved in another couple's business. And if somebody's throwing water in somebody's face, you should be going after the person who throws the water, regardless of gender or sex. Period. End of story or discussion. And as far as the law goes, we need to make sure that we fix these double standards. 1 in 4 men are abused physically, and 1 in 3 women are. Those numbers are close enough to be nearly identical, 33 to 25%. We're talking basically similar numbers. This whole idea that only men are the problem needs to stop, and it needs to end. We're 50% of the population. 50%. If even guys just looked out for our best interest and wrote, we already have the votes. And I know that women out there care, because this affects you guys too. Because men are already weaponizing these rules. That's why you see so many transgenders, because we figure, well, shit, we'll just take your sports over. We'll just invade your bathrooms. That's where all the predators are going. We're figuring out all the loopholes, and then we're coming after you. That's what these creeps are doing to you, until there is nothing innately unique about being a female. And then you're going to end up being in a legal situation with an abusive man who claims he's a woman, but it's really a she that's claiming to be a lesbian, and then it's two women. And then they figure out how to use the law and then say that you're hitting him when it's a her. And then, now what? Believe women, right? But what if that woman's a man? See, now you haven't even, I'm sure most of you haven't even taken it that far, but men do. We think about these things because we think about the Roman Empire 3 times a day. We're constantly running simulations in our mind. We're always on top of stuff. We have to prepare for worst case scenarios because we are leaders, we are planners, we are fix-it people, we are survivors. And so we're trying to make sure that not only ourselves but everybody else around us is doing okay and then better tomorrow than we were yesterday. That's why we have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C for everything. If you ask most guys and you say, what would you do in this case? I bet you, if you told them whether it was anything from a zombie infestation to a nuclear attack, your man already has 5 different plans for each of them. So enough of the misandry, enough of the man-hating, and show your king some love. And don't just do it with a video, do it with something real. And let's fix these laws, and let's get down to business and make some real change. Let's show some real love out there. Because, and this goes for any case, it doesn't make sense to have a judge out there not getting all of the information about a case. And it doesn't make sense to have a law that can be applied subjectively, depending on the situation, and even turned against the people that it was supposed to help. And it doesn't make sense to have any kind of law in which the police can choose at any given time, or even the prosecutor can choose at any given time, who they want to go after. Because they can just, if 2 people get into a fight, let's say, and we both have cuts on our face, they can decide to charge both of you, one of you, or none of you. What sense does that make? So it all depends on their personal preference. If they just happen to hate women, hate men, hate everyone equally because they're having a bad day, or they just happen to be a pussy and don't even want to enforce the law when there may be a good reason to enforce the law. The law needs to be written clearly, concisely, and fairly in such a way so that when something happens, the facts can be taken into consideration, and people who were not there do not have a say in it. I think that's common sense. Anyways, speaking of sense, that's my 2 cents, and I'm out. Take care.